Hi there. It is very early April and we've just had a couple of colder nights, a later spring evening freeze. It's probably not our last one. We have been known here in Ohio to have them as late as middle of May. So what I'm doing today is taking care of something that is appropriate to do at this point, which is pruning my Panicle Hydrangeas. So let me show you. So these three right here are Pinky Winkies, and as you can see, they are fairly tall. This is ground level where they're about as tall as me, and I'm about 5'3", 5'4". And if you look closely, you can see little places where they are starting to form new little leaf buds. So that is definitely one of the signs that you want to get out and do any pruning that needs done. With Panicle Hydrangeas, we prune these in the early spring because they will bloom on new wood, meaning new growth this year. So you want to go ahead and give them a good trim shaping before they start growing a lot of that new wood. If you have hydrangeas that are the kind that bloom on old wood, which I don't think I have many of those. I do have a couple kinds that bloom on both new and old, and so those you can kind of trim up any time that they need. But today we're working on panicle types, and they want to be pruned before that new growth really starts taking off. So what I'm doing today is just give you a few basic pointers. You want to find places where you have a good set of strong buds forming, and then you would want to trim off. Doing this. You want to prune. Let me see if I can get my clippers right above where those. So I'm just going to hold this with my pruners. Right above those two buds is where you would snip, if that's the spot that you want to snip that branch at. What I'm going to be looking for, my kind of basic rules are, I want to take this down by about a third of its size, and then I want to get rid of any branches that are very, very spindly and weak, because the flower heads, if you can tell, are rather large. Here's my hand kind of for comparison, or my pruners. So you want stronger branches. So I'm going to take off anything that's real thin and spindly and weak. I also am going to take out anything that's growing up and through and into the center, because you want to make sure that you keep a nice airflow. You don't want it to get so thick in the interior of your shrub that it would create situations where it's going to be, when it gets hot and steamy here in Ohio, really damp in there. That can lead to funguses and other types of diseases. Having a welcome climate to breed and take down your plant. So you want to keep some nice airflow. So I want to take out anything that's going in towards the center. I'm also going to look for any places where there are branches that are like crisscrossing over top of each other, because then those could rub, and that also can lead to some issues for the plant. So I'm going to that's kind of the basic guidelines that I'm going with. And these shrubs, these Pinky Winkies, have not ever really had a real good pruning. This is their third or fourth year here in my garden, and I'll be honest with you, I just have not had the bandwidth this time of year usually to give them very much attention, other than snipping off the old bloom clusters. So this year I'm going to maybe go a smidge more severe with a pruning on them to try to shape them up a little bit. They've gotten a little extra wild looking. They're kind of leaning this way, which is the direction the sun travels. So I want to see if I can kind of straighten them up a little bit, shape them up a little bit. So let's see if I can hold the camera and show you a little bit of how this looks. Hold on. Okay. I think I've got myself re-coordinated here. All right, so you can see here, this is one that's very spindly, very floppy. Here's one down here that's just very spindly and floppy. So I'm going to just come in at the very base and snip that off. Put that in my pile. And here you can see, let's see if we can get that. So you can see there, they don't look green, but that is where the buds are swelling. So I'm going to get right above that and snip that off, because where those were swelling is where new branches are going to come out. So you don't want a lot of stem above where those new branches are going to emerge. All right. I'm going to just start cutting and I'll show you when we get done. Okay, I'm going to see if I can show you. This is a good example of a branch here. This is kind of coming out of the middle. And if you can see there, down there is where I must have cut on another year. And then we have 3 branches that have grown, split off from that place where it was cut before. One of them is very, very thin. That's going to get cut off right back there where it's coming out. These 2, if you notice, are really tall with no other branching. That's not a great scenario, because as we get out here to the end, you've got a lot of weight at the end on a very long stem. So this is where I'm cutting back a little more severely. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, if you can see right about here, there's like a little joint. That's where those buds are going to come out for new branches. You can see that that's everywhere there's a joint, that's where new buds come. I don't want all the growth at the end of this long stem. It's already started budding up out here at the end, but that's not where I want the growth. I want it to be shorter down here. So I'm going to be cutting this off much more than 1/3, because I want to have shorter, stronger stems before the branching occurs. So I'm going to be cutting this down here. I'll cut this one at about the same height. That skimpy little one down there is getting cut off completely. And so I'm just going to take my clippers right above that joint at about the same height over here. And then this one down where it's coming out, snip it right off. And that's going to make for a much sturdier, stronger plant overall. You can see here where I've got this side of the shrub trimmed up comparison to the part that I haven't gotten to yet. So this side is at about here. So I'm actually taking this down about by half, and that's okay. This is a little bit more of a rejuvenating prune year, because they have not had a very good prune in the last 2 or 3 years, and I want to get them a little better shaped up. So that's how I'm going to be continuing on this shrub. I'll show you when we get it all done. Okay, there she is. She still looks a little lopsided. I did take a couple of the more healthy and fuller branches off of this side to try to see if I can encourage it to grow a little more this way, fill out a little bit on this side. I did leave a couple branches that are a little crisscrossy, depending on what angle you look, so we'll see how that starts to fill in. You can do some trimming up once they really start growing. I try not to do that though, because then you are cutting off potentially your blooms. So, but I like how this is looking better. I might still take off that branch right there again, in the interest of trying to get it a little more balanced. Yeah, I think that branch needs to come off. So I'm just going to cut it down right at the point where it comes out, and yeah, that looks a little more balanced. So you can see I did take it down quite a bit compared to how it started. This is one that I haven't gotten to yet, so definitely took it down about by half, but it's much cleaner inside. You can see there's no more of the little scraggly, scrawny looking branches. So we'll see how this does this year. I'm going to take care of these other two, and some bobo hydrangeas and some little quick fires, and basically do the same thing. So thanks for joining me here today in Aunt Susan's garden.